In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's the first verse of the Bible. Now, we now believe the Big Bang happened, that the universe began to exist. That means that in the beginning, someone created the universe. You might imagine that the Big Bang confirms the Bible, but actually it doesn't. It contradicts it, because it doesn't look like the one who wrote the Bible knew anything about modern science or anything about the Big Bang.
This is God's cosmos.
Let's calculate the age of the universe according to the Bible. The Bible says that God created the universe in 5 days, and on the 6th day, He created man. So that's 6 days to the creation of the first human being, Adam. Then, elsewhere in the Bible, it gives the genealogy from Adam to Jesus. Historians have traditionally, Christian historians, they've estimated that time to be about 4,000 years. So you have 6 days plus 4,000 years to Jesus. That's 4,000 years plus 6 days. Our calendar, Gregorian calendar that we use now, begins with the birth of Jesus. We're now in 2022. That's about 2,000 years. 4,000 plus 2,000, 6,000 plus 6 days. The universe is about 6,000 years old and 6 days. According to the Big Bang, the universe began to exist 13.8 billion years ago. Compare 13.8 billion years to 6,000 years. That's a huge difference.
Couldn't we understand the 6 days as 6 long periods of time? I know we do that, for example, with the Quran, where it talks about the creation of the universe.
So with the Quran, that's what we do, and it actually makes sense. I'll show you why in the next episode. But with the Bible, we can't do that, because the Bible, it adds a 7th day. And it says that God rested on that 7th day. And Jews, on that 7th day, they commemorate the Sabbath, and they rest on that 7th day for 24 hours. The 6 days, the 7 days, they have been understood throughout history to be 6 24-hour days. All Christians used to believe this. The most popular and influential English language translation of the Bible is called the King James Version. The King James Version used to be published with annotations and footnotes that gave exact dates for these creation events. And it used to say that the universe began to exist at an exact date, and the date it gave was 4004 BC. There are still copies of the King James Version Bible in circulation today that mention this date.
Does the Bible describe what happened in those 6 days?
Yes, it does. And that's actually another problem. It says that the earth was created before the sun and the stars. But that's not what Big Bang cosmology tells us. According to Big Bang cosmology, first there were stars, and then some of these stars exploded. You had supernova explosions. And in these supernova explosions is where the elements, the heavier elements that we need for a terrestrial planet like Earth were formed. And you needed multiple generations of stars and supernova explosions for a planet like Earth to be able to come into existence. The sun and the stars needed to exist first, and the Earth only came very much later in the history of the universe. It also says that light existed before the sun and the stars. That's a basic contradiction that we can see. And it also says that the plants came into existence before the sun and the stars, but plants need sunlight in order to survive photosynthesis. So the Bible conflicts with the Big Bang. If the Bible is true, the Big Bang cannot be true. That's why Christians like Ken Ham use the Bible to reject the Big Bang.
God said in his word that he made the earth first, covered with water, and the sun, moon, and stars weren't made until day 4. There we are. The Big Bang can't be true if you take God at his word in Genesis.
But isn't the leading proponent of Big Bang arguments for the existence of God an evangelical Christian? How does he reconcile his beliefs in the Big Bang with the opening verses of the Bible?
That's right. His name is William or Bill Craig. He is the leading proponent of an argument called the Kalam cosmological argument for the existence of God. Kalam is Islamic theology. He took the argument from the science of Islamic theology. Ken Ham represents a very tiny minority of the world's Christians. They're called young earth creationists. Most Christians will be like Bill. What does Bill say? Bill, he has to deal with the conflict. He has to deal with the conflict between the opening verses of Genesis and between Big Bang cosmology, especially since he's arguing for the existence of God based on the Big Bang. The way that he deals with the conflict is that he rejects those verses diplomatically. He says that these verses are mytho-history. That means that they were written by human beings who used the language of false myths that were prevalent at that time. They used that language to express divine truths.
So he doesn't believe that the Bible is unaltered and direct revelation from God?
He doesn't. That's what it means when he says that it was written by human beings who used the language of false myths. It's not unaltered and direct revelation from God. That comes as a surprise to Muslims because we do believe that the Quran is unaltered and direct revelation from God. But most conservative Christians will actually hold some kind of a view that's similar to Bill's. They'll say that the point of these verses is to assert the glory of God, not to talk about factual truth. So it doesn't matter if it's factually wrong. You just focus on the glory of God. Others will say that human beings put them into the Bible and God didn't correct these mistakes because the point of the Bible is not to be a science textbook. The point of the Bible is to give moral instruction. There's other responses, and all of them, they say diplomatically that the Bible contains verses that were written by human beings who made mistakes, and this is mixed with revealed truths.
So whether or not there are problems with their belief in the Bible being mytho-history, doesn't this at least get rid of the problem between the Bible and the Big Bang?
I don't think it does. I think that the Bible and the Big Bang conflict. A literal reading of the Bible conflicts with the Big Bang. Even Bill will accept that. But I think what's important to understand here is that if Bill is willing to say that the opening verses of the Bible are expressed by human beings in the false myths of the time, then he should do the same thing for the incarnation of Jesus. The incarnation of Jesus is a central tenet of Christianity. It means that Jesus is God. Jesus is both God and human at the same time. This is the central belief of Christianity. And this is based on a myth. There were myths circulating at the time when the New Testament was written. They were everywhere, that there were human beings who became God. This is the central myth of all polytheistic religions. The Greeks had it, the Romans had it, the ancient Egyptians had it. That's why we find in the Quran that Fir'aun says, "Ana rabbukumul a'la." He says, "I am your greatest God." He says, "I'm divine." He claimed divinity. Hindus have it. The concept of a Hindu avatar is the incarnation of the god Vishnu in a human being. This is a common false myth. And when we find this idea in the New Testament, and it's nowhere in the Old Testament. The Old Testament doesn't talk about avatars. It talks about prophets. So when we find this circulating everywhere, then why can we not say that the incarnation of Jesus is a false myth that was circulating at that time, and it's made its way into the Bible. You have no basis to say it there and not say it here.
So when he says this, he basically has no Bible nor any Christianity left to call to.
Yes, he doesn't. He's just like Ken Ham. Neither Ken Ham nor Bill can use the Big Bang to argue for the existence of the God who speaks in the Bible, who they believe speaks in the Bible.
But wouldn't the atheists say that the problem here isn't Christianity, but every religion? That in every single religion there are beliefs about creation which contradict the Big Bang?
Yes, I think they would say that. And I think they have a point, because in the vast majority of religions, that's definitely going to be the case. But it's not the case with the Quran. It's not the case with Islam. Quran does not contradict the Big Bang. In fact, it appears to confirm it. You can't use the Big Bang to argue for the God who is supposed to be speaking in the Bible, but you can, very convincingly in fact, use the Big Bang to argue for the existence of the God who's speaking in the Quran.
Let's talk about that in the next episode.
Let's do that.
If you like this episode, then check out my Why Islam is True course, in which I teach you 4 rational arguments that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself used to show that Islam is true. Learning on YouTube is great, but if you want to reach a learning goal, a learning destination, like how to make rational arguments, how to think critically as a Muslim, how to engage with modern science as a Muslim, then you need to follow a map that's been specifically designed to take you to your learning goal, step by step, through a series of carefully designed learning objectives and learning activities that take you to your final learning destination. That's how this course has been designed. This course shows you the what, the why, and the how. It shows you what we believe as Muslims. It shows you why those beliefs are based on evidence and 100% true based on Quranic rational arguments. And it shows you how to use those arguments to address common objections against Islam by atheists and others on topics such as evolution, the problem of evil, the age of Aisha, and much more. It consists of 20 modules, and it includes bi-weekly live sessions with me, pre-recorded lessons with 81 bite-sized videos, 247 application activities and real-world scenarios, a 24/7 community where you can ask a question and get it answered within 24 hours, and there's an option to buy a course textbook as well. Find out more at www.whyislamis.true/course and learn why Islamic seminaries are adopting this course as part of their curriculum to train the next generations of scholars. This course is actually the first and prerequisite course in the Basira classical curriculum in modern context, a 4-year curriculum consisting of 31 courses that will teach you everything that a Muslim needs to know about their deen and be ready for modern society. This 4-year Basira seminary curriculum is based entirely on the Muslim scholarly tradition, but it teaches you how to apply that tradition to the world in which we live, and it's taught completely in English. Why Islam is True is the first course in that 31 course curriculum. Check it out at www.whyislamistrue.com/course.